Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss about default dictionaries in Python. So default dictionaries, they are the part of collections module which are high performance container data types. And these are various data types which are existing in your collections module. So we have already discussed what deck data structures in the previous video. Now we are going to discuss default dictionary here. So what default dictionaries are? Suppose there is a key which you are trying to find inside the dictionary and that key does not exist. So what happens in that case? So in that case, a key error is being thrown. Okay, but in contrast to dictionary, if you talk about default dictionary and you do the same thing, you try to search for a key which does not exist in the dictionary. In that case, a new entry will be created instead of throwing the error. So this happens in case of default dictionary. So I'll take an example to make this point very clear. So let's say we have a dictionary like this where the marks of the students are stored. So let's say marks is the name of the dictionary where I'm going to store the marks of students. Ram, marks are let's say 56 and there is student Sham and marks of Shama 67. Okay, now let's print this dictionary once. So this is my dictionary. Let's say if I try to access the marks of what? Sita. So Sita does not exist in this dictionary. So what happens in this case? You will get an error. That is your name error because Sita is not defined inside the dictionary. But in contrast to this, if you take a default dictionary, so from collection, from this module, you have to import default dictionary. Okay, like by writing something like this. Then you have to create a default dictionary. So how you are going to generate default dictionaries? Let's say there is a dictionary already existing. Let's say we have a dictionary which already exists, and from this dictionary only I want to create a default dictionary. And let me just write the syntax here, then I'll make this point clear. Okay, now let's say the name of new dictionary is new marks. This is the name of new dictionary now. Now this time if I let's say if I try to find out what is the value of Sita, what are the marks, what is the marks obtained by value by the key Sita, which obviously does not exist in this dictionary. Now what we have done, default dictionary, I am calling the constructor of default dictionary and I am passing two values. So the second value is pretty clear because from this dictionary only I am trying to create a new one. And the first parameter, it says it has to be a callable type function or callable type value that will tell you what is the default value for this new key. So whenever a new key comes, this function will decide the new value, the default value for Sita. So in this case, if you give integer, so it will give what? It will say 0 is the default value of Sita. So now Sita will become a new member of this dictionary, is the new key, and against Sita 0 will be stored. So if you want to see the new dictionary, now you can see a new key is now added with the name Sita and 0 value is being added. So instead of throwing error like this, it is giving me value 0, which is already added against with Sita. So this is a very simple concept. But the only thing you have to remember is the two values which you are passing. The second one is the dictionary itself from where you want to define a new one. And first is the name of function through which a new value is being created. Now let's say I don't want to provide the 0 number. I want to give another number. So instead of 0, if I give, let's say the marks scored by Sita is 98. So the value is now changed to 98, which is of integer type. Alright, now let's say I want to define my own function for that. So instead of a predefined function, if let's say I want to create my own function with the name myFun and I want to give the marks to Sita. Okay, so let's say how to define a function in Python. So you write def and you write the name of the function and let's say you return how many marks? 98. So now this function will come into picture and it will return 98 as the marks and which will be stored against Sita. So let me first run this cell So this cell is executed. Now I execute this. So you will get Sita, and against Sita you have got 98 based on the function which you have defined. So you could have written various conditions. If the condition is true, then the marks are this. If condition is this. So based on different criteria, you could have done the same thing. But yes, this is also one possibility that you should aware of. So now next example I would like to take is, we can store a list as well instead of integer. Okay, instead of a single number, I could have stored a list as well. So let's assume that we have a dictionary with the name D. Okay, so this is a default dictionary, and in this, it's a normal dictionary. So in this dictionary I am storing some, let's say, marks, let's say subjects. There are few subjects and a list of subjects I'm storing. Let's say C. Then we have languages I'm taking only, let's say, and Python. Okay, this is the list of items, list of what values associated with this key. And suppose, let's say, one more list I can have, let's say course, and in this course I have BTech and let's say BCA, let's say MCA. So in these courses, let's assume that these subjects are running, and I want to add one more list to this dictionary now. Okay, so in general, if I try to add a dictionary like this, sorry, okay, so in general, if I try to add a dictionary like this, and let's say if I want to add a semester, so if you directly do something like this, it will lead to error because this is not of default dictionary type. So again, you have to write this syntax, take this one and declare a default dictionary, create a default dictionary from D. So instead of marks, now it is D. And what type of values you are expecting? A list type value. So instead of my function, you have to write list. So now this is my new dictionary with the name new D. Alright. Now I say I want to add one more key value pair to it. For example, semester. In which semester these courses are running. So can I pass a list like this? Suppose I'm saying in first semester, in second semester, in third semester. Alright. And at last I want to print the items. So now you can see, instead of throwing me error, if I want to look for a particular element. So instead, earlier I was looking for this semester key inside the dictionary, it was throwing me error. But this time this value is now added, and against this value 3 new items are now added. Right? So in case of default dictionary. So next two examples are very important. So let's try to understand the first one. Let's say I want to just print out, this is my input and this should be my output. So we have to understand that this is my input which is of string type, and I want an output like this. So what this output is denoting, if I talk about the first character M, so how many times this M character is occurring inside this string that you have to print. Okay, M is occurring just for one time, I is occurring 4 times, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Similarly all these characters. So I have to print these details using a particular data structure. So if I say, let's take a normal dictionary. So let's declare a normal dictionary. Instead of what? Default dictionary, I'm trying to do it in a normal way. So what you have to do, you have to check for every single character. If a character exists in a dictionary, if a character does not exist in a dictionary, it means if the dictionary is empty, then you go and add this key inside the dictionary, and against this key you add one value. Okay, and if the item already existing in the dictionary, then you keep on adding 1 to the value of it. For example, so this is my word, okay, and initially let's say this is my dictionary. Now one by one you have to check, you have to use for loop for every character in your string. So you are checking, not in if a character not exist in dictionary, then you go on and add this character in the dictionary, and against this character you are going to add 1. So what is happening for char in S? For every character in string, so it means char is M. Now for if M is not in dictionary, so currently this dictionary is empty, so you are going to add one element. So you have added M inside the dictionary, and against this M you have added what? One number, that is 1. So this condition is true in the first case. Okay. Now let's look for the second element. So obviously I also does not exist in the dictionary. So this condition becomes true, and I is also added, and one value is added against it. Now next S. S is also adding for the first time. So again the same thing is happening. Next again you are looking for S. Now the condition changes. If S already existing in the dictionary, then this condition becomes false. Then what you have to do? You just have to increment this value to 2. So else you are going to just increment this value to plus equals to 1. That's it. Now this 1 becomes 2. Similarly, you are going to do all the same similar type of activity for all the remaining characters. So in this way, once you are done with it, you can now print the dictionary. This is your output. M is occurring for 1 time, I is occurring for 4 times, and so on. Right? So in this way, you can do it. That is the first approach. Now the second approach is of course by using a default dictionary. So instead of doing this, if I copy and paste the same thing and I take a default dictionary like this. So how you define a default dictionary? You write default dictionary like this, okay, and then you start writing everything. What is the difference? When you start looking for items inside a dictionary, inside a default dictionary, you'll say if a character, do you have to check this condition now? No, because if a character does not exist in the default dictionary, it will by default add a character in the list, in the dictionary. You don't have to check any condition here. So your this condition thing is now gone. So you will do for every character in S, you don't have to check anything because by default it is going to add one element. So this is happening by default. If it is not the case, then you have to add, otherwise you have to just add 1 to this default dictionary. Okay, now if you print the value of T, for every character in string, you are taking a default dictionary from collections. For character in default dictionary, okay, sorry, for every character in S, T of character plus equals to 1. So for every value, in this case, you have to write int, otherwise it will throw in error. Alright, so integer means by default, if a key does not exist in the dictionary, it is going to give 0 value to it. So in this case, first it is not going to check if M exists in the dictionary or not. It is directly going to put M, the value 0 against M. But now what you are doing, for every character in S, you are going to add 1. So M against M 0 is stored, that it will become 1. So now I, against I, initially 0 was there, but now you'll keep on adding 1 whenever you encounter every single character in the dictionary. So if you print now, obviously you are going to get the correct output. So what is the difference? In this example, you have seen you have to explicitly check this condition, but in case of default dictionary, it is being done manually. It is being done internally. You don't have to check it, right? So now let's go back to the next example. In this example, you have to understand that this is my input this time. So the input is in the form of a list of items. So we have a list in which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items are there. So the length of this list is 5. Alright. So what should be my output? This type of output I require from this input. So what it is doing, it is giving values. So if you have a same key, if you encounter a same key inside this data structure list, then you are going to append these values inside a list. That is something you want in this case. So how this question can be solved using default dictionary, you have to see. Alright, so let's take this S, this is my input, and suppose we have a default dictionary. Okay, and in default dictionary, suppose the name of the dictionary is now color. So in default dictionary, you have to now pass value. So in the initial example, you gave integer, because what you wanted an integer number to be the value against this key. Similarly, in this case, think about it. What do you want? You want a list against a key. So you will give a list over here. Okay, it's quite simple. Now you'll say this is fine. Now you'll have to keep on adding these items into the default dictionary, and then you'll have to append these values whenever you encounter the same key. So for key and value in S. So for key value in S means for every key value. I'm just assuming this will become my key and this will become my value. So I am just iterating over this list of values, where when first time I execute the loop, this yellow will become my key and this one will become my value. So what I'm going to do, I have to use this dictionary. So inside this dictionary, what I'm supposed to do, I'm supposed to make this yellow as the key. So that is why dictionary square bracket name of the key, and in this dictionary I have to append this value. Now this is very important, because color of key dot append v. Why this append function, you know, it belongs to list class. So this entire value has to be a list or not? So this itself is a list. As you can see, color of key. So if you talk about color, this is your dictionary. So in dictionary you have already defined, that there are two things. One is key, other is the value. You have already defined that in my dictionary, my values are going to be list. Okay, so that is why you are saying color of key means I am talking about this particular value. So I am appending this, I am appending the item in the list here itself. Alright, so make sure this append function is working for this particular list. And from where this list is coming? This list is coming from the default dictionary constructor. Right? So in this default dictionary constructor, I have passed a list, and now I am appending the various values associated with the key. So once I have appended the values, now I can check if the key is same. So every time you are going to check. Next time when you check, so blue. So for blue, it is going to append 2. That is fine. When yellow encounters again, so it is just going to append this to 3 inside this list. So first time when you say, it becomes what? Yellow. When you run the loop for first time, and a list is generated in which 1 is stored. Now second time when you run, the blue value is stored and a list will be generated with 2 in it. Third time when you run the loop, it will encounter this yellow which is already existing here. It will just going to append this value in the list. So this will happen when you run the loop for the third time. Similarly, when you run the loop for the fourth time, it will encounter this blue which is already existing. It is just going to append this 4 inside this list like this. And red is occurring for the first time, so you can say red, and against this red you are going to append 1. So this should be your output, and this is something we wanted originally. Alright, so let's try and execute it and try to find out the value of color. So see, the answer is, okay, so this has to be value, okay, because now we have written value. So 1, 3, 2, 4 and 1. So I hope you understood this example, and try to do it by yourself. Try to just write down the question and the pattern you want, and then try to solve it by yourself. That is the only way of doing it. All right. So this is the definition. If you want to read more about this functionality, you can understand it from there. And this was related to default dictionary. Right. So thank you so much.